their loved ones who are aging. Also, construction jobs are actually on the rise here in Houston. There are so many jobs out there. We're going to talk about what one trade school is doing to get their students prepared. Also, did you know that Sunday's Father's Day. If you need a gift idea, we got one for you, so you want to stick around for that. But let's go ahead and talk about the first thing we talked about, which is the weather. We have meteorologist Ramisha Shade here to tell us what we can expect, because it has felt like what I would say London weather, just dreary, a little bit cooler as well. And so what can we expect, not just for the rest of today, but also going into the weekend, because people might have some of those Father's Day plans?
Well, it is going to be more of the same. Unfortunately, we do have the potential for more of these rounds of rain, strong to severe storms. I definitely think things will improve slightly. Today was probably about as bad as it's going to get for the morning hours. I don't know if you woke up early, if it bothered you, but yeah, it was rough out there, really starting in the really early hours of the morning, sticking around through mid-morning, late morning. Several inches of rainfall. So that is what we are currently tracking. That's what we are monitoring. And it continues to be a pretty bad scenario down around the coast, where we've had reports of major flooding. You can just see some of these Fox Red radar rain estimates, and they're kind of mind-blowing. This is over the last 12 to 24 hours. And look down around Palacios and Lavaca. We're talking about a foot of rain being estimated by our Fox Red radar. So you'll see down towards Lavaca around 11.6 inches of rain showing up. Remember, this is just an estimate, but this gives you an idea of around how much rain we could have potentially had over the last 24 hours. Palacios, 13.2 inches of rain. So that has been the bullseye for this super heavy rain so far. Up around the Needville area, just south of Rosenberg, we also have some pretty impressive totals there. We're going to have around 7 inches of rain showing up. What about Houston? Well, anywhere from 2 to around 4 inches of rain reported for the majority of the Houston area. Even over towards Bay City, right around 8 inches of rain showing up. So this has been a pretty serious heavy rain and flooding situation that set up early this morning. And finally, we are starting to get a break from some of those heavy downpours. So that is certainly some good news. So you see how much rain we've had over the last 12 to 24 hours. Those were Fox Red radar estimates. Now I want to give you some actual ground truth, some reports of what we actually had. So Sargent, which is close to Palacios, 9.73 inches. This is an actual rain total that was recorded. So close to 10 inches for Sargent, and over towards Palacios as well. Parts of Palacios, 10 plus inches. Midway, close to 8 inches of rain. Goose Creek at I-10, over 6.5 inches of rain. San Bernard, 5.5 to 6 inches. And League City, how about close to 4.5 inches of rain for you? Not only was it the heavy rain threat, but we had a few of those storms start rotating on us early this morning. This was shortly after 3 a.m. Not one, but two brief, weaker, but still tornadoes were reported out there. The first one was in northeast Wharton County. This was an EF1. This was northeast Wharton EF1 tornado around 3:05 a.m. Peak winds of 100 miles per hour. Path length 1.6 miles. Path width 130 yards. The tornado touched down northeast of Wharton and traveled east across County Road 166, 133, and 129. Tree damage and minor roof damage was reported. So that's a pretty rural area, but it did do a little damage. So we do know that there was a brief tornado there. Second tornado reported this morning a little bit after that one, around 15 minutes after that one at 3:20 a.m. Also in Wharton County around Burr, an EF0 tornado. Of course, on the enhanced Vegeta scale, you go from an EF0, which is the weakest, to an EF5, which would be the strongest. And this is a brief, very weak tornado, peak winds of 75 miles per hour. So those are really winds you could experience in a severe thunderstorm, except for they were rotating. Stayed on the ground, though, for about 2 miles with a path width of 50 yards. Touched down east of Burr and traveled northwest across County Road 111 and 117. Did mostly a little bit of tree damage, but it was still a brief tornado. So for the rest of today, we remain under a Fox 26 storm alert. I don't think it's going to be as horrible as it was this morning, but still a few more rounds of rain are possible this afternoon. Flood threat will still remain very very high from what we had this morning, and there could still be a few strong storms. In fact, for Houston, we're still under a flood watch until 7 p.m. this evening. I think at worst, it'll be an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain that will be possible for the area. Quick look at our Fox Red radar will show you that the worst has passed. We just had a blanket of super heavy rain that just didn't move much throughout the morning. The heaviest bands and strongest storms set up right along the coast. That's why we're dealing with 10 plus inches of rain for parts of Palacios and the Sargent area. But down around Lake Jackson, Galveston, also quite a bit of rain fell there. So you can still see some spotty showers there. Another batch of rain rolling over El Campo, pushing into Sealy, Rosenberg, and Needville. But the heaviest of that rain has come to an end. Still dealing with an aerial flood warning for Matagorda County, parts of Jackson County. Those are some of the hardest hit areas that we had with all that heavy rain this morning. So no longer under a flash flood warning, which would be life-threatening flooding going on, but still that aerial flood warning means a lot of those streets are still flooded. So even though the rain has gotten lighter, please be careful. Avoid driving across a flooded road. There were a couple of people that were killed, I believe, overnight in San Antonio or around San Antonio, where they had an accident, I believe. They were swept away in the flood water, so you don't want to put yourself in that situation.
Definitely. All right, Ramisha, thank you for that. Now, we do know, like Ramisha was talking about, many parts of our area seeing some of that flooding. Actually, Baytown was hit very hard, and we had our Jade Flurry out there a few hours ago.
Yeah, we're right off of I-10 near Main Street in Baytown, and you guys just take a look at the screen over here. There is a semi-truck that has driven off the road and is now having to be towed out by a heavy-duty wrecker. And you guys, there is high water out here, and we believe that's why this driver drove off of the road, because you literally can't see where the shoulder ends. And again, these are incidents that we want people to avoid if they have to be on the roadways right now. Again, there's been multiple high water areas under the underpasses, the feeder roads, intersections. But you guys, look at that. Yeah, we don't want any of our viewers to be this person. So again, be on the lookout for high water areas. So far, when it comes to the rain, it's been off and on kind of throughout the day here. Just when you think it's over, it continues. And, excuse me. So yeah, if you guys have to hit the roadways, do it with caution. Make sure you're weather aware. And yeah, just make sure you're have those headlights on and windshield wipers.
All right, Jade Flurry reporting for us there. And let's talk about what happened over in San Antonio. Now, we do know that at least 4 people have died, 2 of them swept away by floodwaters. And it is believed one person was killed in a crash. The others were found outside of vehicles. Torrential rain has been coming down in that area, leading to many high water spots and also water rescues. Well, a possible tornado actually touched down south of Austin. This is as storms rolled through overnight. Now, it did leave behind a lot of damage, as you can imagine. That tornado is believed to have hit the Wimberley area. There's minor damage, like some downed trees that were spotted by our Fox 7 crews in Austin earlier today. Now, officials haven't confirmed that this was a tornado, but there are some low water crossings that remain closed in the area. Now, over in international news, just such a tragic story. We do know that an Air India plane with at least 240 people have died, and after a crash that happened, everyone on board of that flight died. It is just so tragic. We're looking at video here. We do know that about 100 people were injured on the ground. They were treated at local hospitals. The flight left India's northwestern city of Ahmedabad and was on its way to London when it went down just 5 minutes after takeoff. Everybody there just in disbelief. And this was a Boeing 787, also known as a Dreamliner. It first entered commercial service 14 years ago, and according to the Aviation Safety Network database, this is the first ever crash of a Boeing 787. Boeing released a statement writing they're in contact with Air India and are standing by to help. We hear now from an aviation expert.
The investigators are going to look at the flight data recorder, the cockpit voice recorder, which will affirm or not that the flaps and slats were extended. If they were not extended and you take off on a 5,900 foot remaining part of the runway, that's a recipe for disaster. The investigators will also look at the pilot history, the airplane maintenance history, runway condition.
Yeah, I've actually flown Air India myself several times, and it's just so astonishing that something like this happened. We will stay on top of this story for you. Now, turning to the Houston Texans, the safety Jimmy Ward is now facing a charge of assault family violence. Our Nate Griffin has more on that developing story.
Very difficult news coming out of Montgomery County. We understand Houston Texans safety Jimmy Ward has been arrested and jailed, we understand, early Thursday morning after an incident at his home in Montgomery County. According to the Montgomery County Police Department, he's facing a felony assault and family violence charge after police arrived at his home shortly before 6 a.m. According to our report, he is still in the Montgomery County Jail and being held without bond at this particular point in time. The Texans have been contacted. They also released a statement saying that they are aware of the report involving Ward, but are gathering information and have no further comment at this time. Ward was absent from the on-field portion of Houston's mandatory minicamp in recent days as he recovers from season-ending foot surgery. 2025 is slated to be Ward's third season at Houston after 9 years in San Francisco, and obviously we will continue to follow this story. In studio, Nate Griffin, Fox 26 Morning Sports.
Well, as those protests continue around the country against ICE detention, hundreds gathered last night over in San Antonio. It all happened as Governor Greg Abbott called out the National Guard. We have Fox's Lauren Rangel, who was in the middle of that action last night. Take a look.
Now, we walked with a crowd of what started out as about 150 to 200 protesters through downtown San Antonio that are now here chanting near downtown San Antonio City Hall. We haven't seen any evidence of Texas National Guard, but there is a lot of police presence here tonight, blocking off streets for protesters. Overall, what we've seen has been peaceful. We only saw a brief moment of tension between counter-protesters and protesters, mostly just yelling, but no physical violence. What we're hearing from protesters tonight is that they would like to call to an end to the ICE deportations, worried about their own communities here in San Antonio, enough to wear the American flag upside down as a sign of distress.
It's a beautiful country because of the diversity, and I really just would hope that the racism comes to an end. I'm in distress for my country. This isn't the country that I was so proud of at one point. This isn't the country that, as a child, you grow up and you think of living the American dream. It's not the American dream anymore.
This comes after Governor Greg Abbott has said that he would deploy the Texas National Guard troops depending on how a protest went. He would not reveal to us in a press conference on Wednesday how many of those he's called on standby, but here's what he said.
First of all, we want to make sure that what has happened in California does not happen in Texas. Texas is a law and order state, and we will use every tool that we can to ensure order across our state.
San Antonio city leaders say that they did not request the Texas National Guard troops here to their city, nor were they given any warning. In San Antonio, Lauren Rangel, Fox 7 Austin News.
Well, President Trump's deployment of the National Guard to Los Angeles has sparked a conversation about martial law. Today, there's a court hearing over in San Francisco where a judge is actually going to hear the state of California's arguments to block the deployments. Chris Mirasola, who's an assistant professor of law at University of Houston Law Center, spoke about it on Houston's Morning Show.
We were just looking back to see how long it's been since the government has declared martial 44 after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Can you talk about, first of all, who can declare martial law? And then the president has floated using the Insurrection Act to do it. Can you tell us more about that?
Great. Yeah, no, happy to. So I want to distinguish martial law here from the Insurrection Act, which is, as you say, like what's been in the conversation. So martial law can only be invoked by the president, and it's when the military replaces civilian law enforcement. What we're talking about here with the Insurrection Act is something slightly different. It's an authorization for the military to be used to assist civilian law enforcement. So we still exist in the usual constitutional framework all of the civil rights and civil liberties that people enjoy continue to persist. What changes is that now the military can be used to more directly assist law enforcement than would otherwise exist.
So what all exactly happens during martial law? What are the basics for someone to understand?
Yeah, so like in the context that you were talking about in Pearl Harbor, what happens is that the military takes control of all government functions. Here with the Insurrection Act, what happens is that the military is authorized to do law enforcement activities that usually would just be done by the police. And these law enforcement activities would be limited to only those actions that you need to regain control of whatever city or location is having the domestic unrest.
And then can you talk finally about how long this could last, the martial law?
Yeah, so an invocation of the Insurrection Act. In the statute, there is no set time period or set sunset for this kind of authorization. Traditionally, they've been limited to no more than a week or two, often because the military is, again, historically always brought in as a last resort.
Okay, I tell you what, it's a little confusing to understand all this, so you really helped me understand it all. So thank you for taking time there from the University of Houston Law Center to make us all better understand it.
All right, well, when we come back, we're going to talk about overcoming a caregiving crisis. Stay tuned. So what specifically do you want? Look at me. All right, let's talk about something that many people can relate to, caring for a loved one that is a lot older. You know, nationally, more than 3 million Texans serve as unpaid family caregivers, and that number jumps to 45 million nationally. So here to talk about some advice is Chelsea Wilson. She's the owner of Senior Helpers. Chelsea, thank you so much for being here and really tackling this challenge that many families have. And I wanted to ask you, what made you want to start something like this?
So that's a really great question. I think it has to do with my passion of really helping to restore the family dynamics within the home. Going out and helping those that are suffering, and our seniors want to stay independent in their home for longer. And so by having those unpaid family caregivers who are working multiple jobs and they have kids, and like my in-laws, they live next door to their mother, and so they're taking care of 2 households. And so seeing something like that really makes you say, how can I help to restore that family dynamic?
And that's huge, what you just said with the family dynamic, because I think when you're in the thick of it, and I can speak from experienced family members having to do this, the family dynamic changes. Your mental health is suffering because you are having to take on something that on top of everything else on your plate that's already full, right?
Exactly. I mean, we've seen the research that shows how high cortisol levels from that level of stress can really impact your body. I mean, it's not just mental, it's physical. And so it impacts quality of life for not only the person who's being cared for, but the family as well. And so I'm passionate about spreading awareness about how to help prevent that.
And I'm so glad that you're here talking about this, because I've also seen, I've heard family members sort of complain and then obviously feel bad that they're complaining because they're loved ones, right?
Yep.
But then at the same time, like for instance, I'll just say this, I'll tell my mom, I'll be like, Mommy, but because it's with her mom, I'll say, it must be frustrating for her not to be able to do X, Y, and Z by herself anymore.
Exactly.
And so it's, it's important to balance all of that. It's hard to do as well. When is a time when you are a caregiver that it's too much and you really do need help?
So you really want to look for those signs of, stress. So having, feeling like you're constantly in a state of crisis, feeling overwhelmed all the time, having some sleep disturbances, anxiety, and then resentment. So like you were mentioning with your family, eventually there becomes a point where you're feeling resentful that you can't do the things that you need to do. You're overburdened, you're overwhelmed. And so eventually you have to say, okay, should I look at help? Should I make sure that I'm, like in an airplane, I'm putting the oxygen mask on my face first and then helping those around me. So if you're not actually getting 40 hours away from that person that you're caring for, it starts to become your identity. And so that really becomes a challenge. And so really identifying those situations can help prevent that caregiver burnout.
And sometimes, with senior helpers, I know that because this is not covered by insurance normally, since it's not medical, it's still being able to, there's no amount of money that can really equate to just feeling less stressed.
Yes.
And really, it's this gift that you're able to give. I mean, I don't know how much, I don't know what the price range is or how that goes, but how do you all work?
So that's a great question. So we really work collaboratively with everyone's budget. So of course, if you're able to afford something that is excessive, then you can always have that as an option. But we have a lot of people who are looking for something simple, maybe just a couple of hours a week. So in the sense of caregiver fatigue and burnout, we frequently have, hey, let's get you 6 hours on Saturday. That way you can step away and have a peace of mind. Or maybe you want to actually step out onto the patio and drink your coffee and read your book without worrying if mom is turning on the stove because she's got dementia and she could potentially burn the house down. Having that peace of mind. So even all the way down to the smallest amount of time, we're able to help kind of bring in and give you some of that, okay, I don't have to worry 24/7. And you can get your identity back.
Do y'all do that with kids too? Or I have a 5-year-old.
I wish. I don't think our insurance covers us.
No, I'm kidding. But why do you think that there's so much burnout when it comes to this? Because it's your loved one, obviously, so you're adding more pressure, right, to yourself.
A lot of it has to do with guilt. People feel that they shouldn't ask for help. And so they feel that, well, it's my mom, I need to take care of her. I don't want to not be there for her. But ultimately what ends up happening is by doing that, both of you end up suffering. And so we go back again to that family dynamic, and so just really understanding it's okay to ask for help, and you can do that in small increments and still prevent yourself from getting to that burnout.
Definitely.
So let's go to the preventative measure instead of that reactive situation, because so many people recognize it when it's already too late. They're already burnt out for 2 years. And then we come and we do our assessment and they're crying. And, you know, let's prevent that. Let's see what we can do to help you before you're in that situation.
Definitely. All right, Chelsea. Well, thank you so much. And where can they find you?
Yes, you can find us at Senior Helpers of Central Houston, at seniorhelpers.com. You can give us a call at our office, 832-900-5194, any of those places.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for
I know
having
that
me.
a lot of people could definitely benefit from help with this organization, Senior Helpers. And Chelsea, we appreciate you.
You do.
All right. Well, it's that time of week. Attorney Casey Garrett is answering some of your legal questions.
Again, with this first question, this is from Krishna, who writes, I took my truck to a dealership for a factory recall. The parts they installed failed, which caused significant damage to the motor. They are not willing to fix it and told me to pick up the truck. What do I do?
Well, that's a very frustrating situation, and you obviously did the right thing. You took the car into the dealership. They are required under federal law to fix any recall, and they obviously can't damage your car by fixing the recall. So I'm not sure from your note how much pressure you have put on them, but you need to drill down on it, save all your documentation, any records from the car, you know, the recall information, have somebody independent maybe inspect the new damage so you have some type of proof. Ultimately, if they don't make good on it, you're going to need to, you know, sue them because they can't damage your car in the process of fixing a recall. So again, document. And then you may have to consult with an attorney to see about filing a lawsuit to get them to either fix your truck or get your money back.
All right. Next question here comes from Virginia, who writes, I received a water bill for almost $400. My bill normally runs around $150 a month. I had someone check my property for leaks. They found none. I called the water company. They came out, reread my meter. They said there was no leak at the meter. They said they would do a bucket test and some other tests. This has been going on for about 3 weeks now, and my next bill is due. Since I have no leaks on my property and I haven't used much water, what are my options?
Sure. You know, Delon, sometimes it feels like these situations are who can outlast you. So you really need to just keep pressing the water company. You've done everything right. You had them come out and check for leaks. There are none. They've said they would do additional testing. Make them get out there. Continue to hound them. Call them every day. Ask for supervisors. That's a huge jump in your water bill. A lot of people cannot cover that difference. So get them out there to verify that there are no leaks and that your water usage did not go up. Again, like I told the last viewer, document everything. One idea, since it is a city department, is to contact your city council person if you really can't get any progress from the water department. Sometimes they'll listen to it when their city councilman calls. So that's one option for you. But keep your paperwork and just continue to contact the water department, contact your city council, because you deserve answers before you pay that bill.
All right, final question this morning comes from Alicia, who writes, I had to move suddenly due to mold. It ruined all of my possessions. I was still forced to pay off the balance of my lease, but they lost or stole 2 of my payments and will not honor them even though I have my receipts and proof of payment. What can I do?
Well, that's totally ridiculous on their part, and they're absolutely taking advantage of you, because when your apartment became what we call uninhabitable due to the mold, you had every right to terminate the lease immediately and not pay any more payments. So the fact that they extracted that money from you is actually very disingenuous. You do not owe them another dime. The apartment became unlivable, according to the way you're describing it, at which point you were able to terminate the lease. So you need to contact them and say, you're not paying another dime, and if they continue to push back, then you can sue them in JP court and frankly, possibly get back the money that you did pay. So find a way to part with them amicably, but do not give them any more money.
All right, and that's that on that.
Yes, indeed.
All right, Casey, we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
You bet, thank you.
If you want to send us your legal questions, head to our website, fox26houston.com. You can find Chris's segments under the Morning News tab. And as always, for any specific information and advice, we always tell you, contact an attorney of your choice.
All right. And don't go anywhere because Faith Braverman is up next with this week's Spectrum of Parenting. And then a little later, gearing up for more construction jobs in Houston.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Spectrum of Parenting, where we talk about issues in the special needs community. My name's Faith. I'm a producer here at Fox 26, and I'm also a special needs parent. And today I am so excited to welcome the Carpenter family to the show. We have Craig and Amanda and their daughter, Brenna. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. So the Carpenters are about to open a West Houston branch of a gym called We Rock the Spectrum. And this is a place where kids of all abilities can come to play. And I've actually taken my special needs son Noah to one of these gyms. He loved it, and I loved it too, because on the wall it says, finally a place where you never have to say I'm sorry. And that is something we are doing a lot as special needs parents, is saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. So I just love that you guys are opening this. I think it's gonna be so great for the community in West Houston. So what inspired you all to open a new gym?
Well, you're looking at the big part of the inspiration right here. So this is Brenna. Brenna is a special needs adult now, but you know, her history is long and complicated. I'll shorten it to, she was 13 years old when she got her autism diagnosis, and there were other health related things that had come before that. Sure. But we had the same sort of experience, right? When you have a child, you want to introduce them into the typical activities children do, and you have a child that doesn't behave like most other children.
Sure.
So we had the same sort of struggle of saying I'm sorry about the way children behave. Well, she's an adult now, and in school, I want to give a big shout out to the Lone Star College Life Path program. She's in that program up in Tomball, and it's been wonderful. And we were thinking about, well, what does that transition to full adulthood look like?
Sure.
She's always said she wanted to work with kids like her. She wanted to have a job and do something constructive. You go look in the community, and there are some well-intended organizations and businesses that make employment opportunities, but it's not that many. right? Even as a developed society, it's kind of hard. We don't really know what to do with that population in adulthood. So my wife and I were thinking, well, what if we created an opportunity? So we started researching what kind of business could we start. We really wanted to go the franchise route because then you get a lot of support for branding and things that are already established, a model that's already established. And that led us to We Rock the Spectrum. So creating an employment opportunity for Brenna was a really big part of it. And then another part was we're transplants to the Houston area. We've been here for
just under 3 years.
Just under 3 years.
Okay.
And before that, our daughters were raised in Louisiana, just outside New Orleans, and we got really familiar with the school system and the special needs community. We learned all of the organizations that existed and had a network there, but we come to Texas and really didn't have that. And we started looking around in our community, so we moved to Fulshire, outside of Katy.
Nice, that's where my parents live.
Awesome. So we move out there, and we have this realization as we're starting to build our own friend and social network that it's very transient, right? There's a lot of people who are moving there that are very new. There's tons of opportunity in the Houston area, so people are moving there all the time, and they also don't have that network.
Right.
So we saw there were a lot of people that didn't have that advantage of knowing the ins and outs of the school system, knowing what resources are available, what community organizations are available. So the gym, we were inspired to create that as a community hub as well. So not just a place where our daughter can be and can do something constructive, and we can have this business venture that we want to try out, but also build that community hub where parents of special needs children are connecting with other parents of special needs children. Because we become, as much as people can have empathy and compassion, that's an experience that you won't really know unless you're going through it as well.
Very true. Yeah, before my son was diagnosed with autism, I was just so green and not aware of everything that I needed to know as a special needs mom, as most parents are. But yeah, as I got further into my son's diagnosis and connecting with resources, I mean, I'm still learning new things every day and new resources.
You know, so many parents feel like they're walking this road alone, not knowing that 3 or 4 houses down, somebody is walking that same path with them. Exactly. So if we can put them in the same room together and they can feel like, oh, I have this person that I now know that understands if I'm having a rough day or if I have a question to ask, they don't feel like that they don't know the answer to it. You know, they have somewhere to go look for those answers.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be so helpful because you're right. I mean, just since I started this segment, Spectrum of Parenting, people in this station have come up to me to say, you know, I have a special needs grandchild, or my nephew's autistic as well. I think this is so great, and it's going to help so many people with resources. I was just like, I had no idea.
And one of the other things that we've noticed just in talking with families is that they know that some of these resources are out there, but they are not able to take advantage of them because they don't have somewhere for the child to go when there's a meeting happening or a class happening. So our goal is actually to bring some of those resources into the gym so they can bring the kids with them. The kids can be playing. We can bring in the attorneys, the financial planners, the Medicaid representatives, you know, resources from the school system so they can. Now there's not that barrier to receiving resources because we've eliminated the I can't go because my child has nowhere to go.
Oh yeah, so this is so much more than just a gym, but I would love to talk more about what a parent could expect while bringing their special needs child to this gym. So I was reading on your website about how you provide play with a purpose that can exercise and stimulate the 7 senses. I thought that was so interesting because I thought there were only 5 senses. So maybe you guys could explain a little more about how that works.
For sure. So the 5 senses most of us know and cover, and you can see how the gym would obviously stimulate those things. So sight and sound, touch, smell. We have some scented toys and some scented items in the merchandise shop. And then taste, we have snacks. Right? That's easy to provide.
My son will love that.
Absolutely. But I'm going to lean on my physical therapist wife and have her talk about proprioception and the vestibular senses.
Yeah. Okay, so proprioception and vestibular are 2 things that are very important about how we recognize where our body is in space and relation to other parts of our body and other people. So the sense of being dizzy or spinning, things like that, those are things that are going to stimulate the vestibular system. So swinging, you spin the swings up and you let it unwind. That is going to stimulate that vestibular system. And a lot of autistic children, you'll notice, they're spinners.
Mm-hmm.
They want to spin in circles constantly. They use the sit and spin.
Mm-hmm.
So that feeds that vestibular system.
That's so interesting.
And then your proprioceptive system is knowing where your body is in space.
Mm-hmm.
If you close your eyes, do you know, are you standing upright? Are your arms up in the air? Or are they down? Are you falling over? So that is your proprioceptive system. And things like your muscles, your joints, those provide the input as to where you are in space. So think about your trampolines, your foam surfaces. All of those provide input to those systems.
Interesting.
So, as far as, we don't just provide the sound, the touch, you're going to actually get that internal feeling of what's going on. So we like to say it kind of feeds the sensory diet.
Oh, interesting.
So you're getting all those parts and pieces that the kids need to know what's going on with their bodies.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think, with my son especially, he, stims.
Right.
Where he's overstimulated, he does these just kind of random movements that he needs to just physically get out of him. And so that's why I love taking him to We Rock the Spectrum. He can get out all his energy and whatever he needs to do.
Well, and you'll notice that a lot of these kids, if, say, their proprioceptive system is not functioning correctly, they'll do a lot of jumping or a lot of high impact movements because their body craves that feeling. They need to know exactly what's going on. They like the tight bear hugs, to be squeezed, or if the vestibular system is off, they want to be spinning and moving quickly because they need to regulate that system.
So interesting. I swear you learn something new every day on this special needs parenting journey.
Absolutely. We're 22 years in and there's never a same day.
That's so true. Well, I'm just so glad that you guys came on. When does your gym officially have its grand opening so people can come check it out?
So our grand opening date's not set yet.
Oh, okay.
We are in the permitting process with Fort Bend. If everything goes smoothly, then
we're hoping to be open like late August.
Yeah, late August is where we're aiming.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well,
it'll be like right after I start my 4th year. So, but for me, like when I start school, I'm not gonna be working there full time until like after I'm done, which will be May of 26.
Oh, okay. And then you'll be a full-time employee there?
Yes, ma'am.
That's so great. Oh, I'm so excited for you. And, the initiative you've both taken to give your daughter these opportunities, I think is so inspiring. Sometimes, like my mama says, if you want something done, you got to do it yourself.
Absolutely.
But I think you're helping so many other parents with the heavy load we all have to carry. So thank you so much for coming on. Is there anything you guys want to add before we say goodbye?
Just that we're very grateful for the opportunity to bring this much needed service back to the Katy area. This population is growing daily, and we can't wait for everybody to come and see us.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to have you guys back whenever it opens back up.
We would love that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You can catch us at Thursdays at 2:30 on Houston Live and Local, and we hope you join us next time. Thanks so much.
Spectrum of Parenting. That was our Faith Braverman, who is an amazing producer, and she is now hosting that segment, so we do appreciate that. Now, the Greater Houston Partnership lists construction as one of the city's fastest growing sectors, projected to add more than 10,000 jobs this year alone. So to help fill that need, National Technical Institute is stepping up its career training, and they're having an open house, and here to talk about it is Dexter Bethers, NTI's Director of Admissions. So thank you for being here. What do you think has caused this huge need for people to be in that industry?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the biggest reasons and need is the individuals that have been in the trades for years and years and years, they're getting older. They're starting to retire, and not enough people are getting into the trades to fill that gap. So the gap keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And as some of these high school students and millennials and Gen Z might think they want to get into a white collar trade, that gap just has gotten larger and larger and larger is what we've seen.
So going to this open house, what can people expect?
Yeah, great question. So the open house, what it's geared for is to just really welcome and open the community to come see our trade school, meet our instructors, see how our program works, to get trained, to get hands-on lab training, get their certifications, and get working into the field. So the idea is come in, no pressure, see some workshops and see what they can find themselves getting into in the trades.
Now, if somebody is semi-interested, not really sure, I mean, this seems like an opportunity for them to sort of explore that.
Absolutely. This is a no pressure, bring the family, we're going to have popcorn, hot dogs, a bounce house, really just to invite the community to come in, check it out, and see if truthfully a career in HVAC, plumbing, or electrical is something that they could see themselves doing.
Now, HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, have you seen a huge growth in it throughout the years?
Absolutely. One specifically, obviously, with the pandemic that took place years ago, naturally people started questioning, okay, can my job be replaced or taken away from me? Now with the growth of AI, people are starting to see that same question of, okay, is my job safe? What could I do? Is there a career that can't be replaced? So we're seeing more and more people really search at least trade school or a career in HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, and seeing what it could do for them.
Obviously, there's probably a learning curve. How long do you think it takes for you to sort of be trained before you're able to full-fledged go out there and make the money that you want to?
That's a really good question. Our goal at NTI is to get individuals, our students, trained as fast as possible. Get them the skills that they need, that they can go get hired, and then the company really take kind of what they've learned, enough to be dangerous, and take them, build upon that, and hopefully fast track them into a position where they can really make a good career and make a good living. So our goal is in 2 to 4 months, get them the hands-on training they need. So our motto is, learn fast so you can earn fast.
That's great. And so far, what has been the response from people who have gone through the school?
Great response. Now that we've been around, so we have campuses in multiple states, in Nevada, Arizona, and Texas as well, obviously here in Houston. The response, as we've done this, we have graduates that come back and have started their own businesses and companies. But not only that, Rashi, we also work with a lot of companies locally that they love hiring our graduates. They love that they can take someone, kind of mold them into their own company's core values, but they have the technical skills that translates to the job.
What do you think the hardest part is if you're interested in something like this for you to actually be able to grasp?
Taking the first step. I mean, when you think of most of our students, some are coming straight out of high school, which naturally that transition's a little easy, but we get a lot of individuals that are, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, maybe have been in a career that they're not satisfied with, but taking that first step, it's hard. They might be a little scared. Can I really do this? Do they have that support system? But that's why we have these open houses. Come check it out. See if it's something that you could really see yourself doing.
And I know you have campuses all over the nation. Do they provide different types of education based on the location?
Yes. So our curriculum is built and really pushed by companies and contractors that we work with. So yeah, if there's something different in a certain geographical area, whether that's code or certain pipes they're using, we'll really hone in on the area of what makes most sense for those individuals and those students.
So I don't know anything about the industry, know a lot about the TV industry.
There
and
we go.
we are evolving, we are changing and doing different things, like we're doing this streaming newscast right now. So I wonder if your industry has really evolved and you've seen much of a change in the past few years.
Well, for starters, Rashi, we have an open house
next
Thursday on the 19th. You should come check it out. But yes, that's what's nice about our curriculum and really driven by companies is we can change on a fly. If a company's saying, hey, the industry's going this way, when you think of HVAC and mini splits and ductless units is becoming a big thing. That might be foreign language to you, but that's all right.
Okay.
But as the industry changes, we can change, and we do change our curriculum so that it fits the needs as the industry changes.
And that's huge because I don't know if we can say that specifically for, let's say, even journalism schools with how things have changed in the real world. So, what you're saying is you're going out to the real companies and the contractors and seeing what they need.
Exactly. Yeah, we have PAC meetings that we meet specifically with these companies. We invite them in and we say, this is what we're teaching over 12 to 16 weeks to hopefully your new apprentices.
That's awesome.
What do you want to see? What do you want them to learn? What can we change and tweak? And we listen to their feedback.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's June 19th, right?
June 19th from 3 to 6.
3 to 6. All right. We appreciate it. Thanks so much. We'll be right back. Well, if you're looking for a gift for dad still, remember Father's Day is this Sunday. High tech is probably the way to go. Here is the story.
Time to visit with the man himself, the high-tech Texan, Michael Garfield. Thanks so much for joining us on Father's Day week, the lead up where you give dad a little love and some toys.
What are you expecting, brother? What are you expecting from your two kids?
They're showing up.
Oh, exactly.
Hopefully they'll have something with them. I don't know if they'll have something this cool like what you brought.
I got 3 boys. At this point in my life, just acknowledge me with a call or a card.
That's right. That's right.
We're lucky.
But if you want to go next level, here's what you do.
This is what I've got a few ideas for you. Okay, so for kids, moms, dads, okay, this is something you can get for dads. Okay. I showed something like this a few weeks ago over here. This is wonderful because this goes on the side of your bed or this goes in your office. This is an all-in-one charger, and so it doesn't matter if you have, if you didn't. So, but this is a different model. This is from a company called Scosh. Okay, this is a Magic Mount Base Pro, and so you just kind of set it up. It swivels. If you've got a magnetic MagSafe thing, it obviously it connects. You can adjust this, and so now anytime something beeps or buzzes, you can see it. It charges it overnight too, and check this out. This thing, it has a removable battery, and so when you take your phone off, it automatically claps on, and now you are set to go throughout the entire day. So this runs about $150 or so from Scosh, and boom.
Dad would love that. I'm fascinated by this. I mean, that's
why?
Old school,
I love it. Old school. You and I, maybe the relatively same age group over here. I want you to picture yourself, 1982, okay? And you're watching TV. It's black and white, and there's silence. All of a sudden, 1982 comes around, and it was the Commodore 64. It was color. It was 64 kilobits. It was like synthesizer sound. This is a 50% miniature scale of what's called the C64, and this is nothing but old school video games. Did you used to play them?
Oh, sure. I mean, my house didn't get it first. I was like jealous of my buddies. Got to figure out how to get a sleepover going on Friday.
This has all these games from summer games, and it's got it's not the typical Asteroids, but 64 games are built in, and it comes with an actual old school joystick. You plug this into your HDMI, and now, Dad, if you're maybe you're 45, 50, 60 years old or so, this is going to take you back in time. I love this. The C64 Mini.
And I will say this: my son is a massive gamer. those kids, they love the history of these games. Sometimes too. So it'll be fun for the whole family. You'll love it. They'll love it too.
After playing the Xbox, and they kind of laugh at us.
They'll laugh.
You grew up with this, but now you can actually play old school on your new school TV. I like this too. Charcoal. You a barbecue griller? Charcoal?
Yes, charcoal.
A lot of dads out there, they want to make sure that they are set for the entire summer. Starting and lighting and waiting for charcoal. It takes forever. Not with this thing. This is called the Luft. And what it is, this is a high-tech, very quick charcoal starter. Because you charge it on a battery right here.
Okay.
You turn it on, and what it does, I don't know if you're going to feel this over here, but we can hear it.
Oh, it's cold in the studio. This is nice. Oh, wow.
This lights up to 1,600 degrees. You put it directly on your charcoal, directly on your briquettes. It lights up within a matter of minutes. No longer waiting for about 30 or 40 minutes to light up. Okay, this thing runs about $100 or so. Dads are going to love this thing. Yeah. Okay, now, no need for laptops, no need for desktops. Now tablets are all the rage. You think there's iPads, and which are out there too, but there's Android-based tablets, and I'm kind of an Android guy. This is a brand new one, only been on the market 3 days.
Okay.
This is 3 days. See, I get the latest and greatest stuff, baby. Yeah. This is from OnePlus. Okay, they make great phones, they make great watches, and now they make the third version of their tablet. And this one, obviously, it folds, but it also comes with a removable keyboard. This you can take it off too, which is nice, and so you can sit and type on it. But it runs about $700. A lot of these tablets are so much more than that thing. This has about 12 gigabytes of RAM, so it's very, very quick. It's got Wi-Fi, and you can take it most everywhere. But again, it's Android. You don't need the ecosystem. And I'm a big fan of OnePlus. And finally, all right. TVs, big screen TVs. No longer, my friend, you need big screen TVs.
The bigger the better.
I want you to put this on, okay?
Okay.
All right, and this is from a company called Roku. These are AR glasses, and I'm going to kind of grab my phone.
Oh, wow.
When you plug this in, this has a USB-C cord. What this does, this goes to your phone. This goes to your Xbox. This goes to your TV.
Wow. Okay.
It has a 215-inch screen.
Wow.
So you are in a movie theater watching this.
I'm a movie theater with, I assume, your lock screen right now.
Exactly.
That's
and then
something.
now I can go to email, whatever.
Yeah, let's check your email. Let's do that.
Who do you got over there? But it replicates anything that you plug it into. And so if you're
It's a beautiful picture.
It's a gorgeous picture.
Yeah.
So now, if you want privacy, no one sees it. So you could play the video games, everything. You could take these on a plane too, plug it into that tablet, and now you've got this massive screen. These are about $350.
It's so great for all those little videos you love to watch on your phone or going out. That's amazing
Now you've got a movie screen. Father's Day gifts, and I hope if the kids are watching, get Dad one of these things. Just one, okay?
Yeah, just one. Surprise me. Michael Garfield, great stuff. Happy Father's Day to you too.
Thank you so
and all
much.
the dads out there.
All right, we share the same sentiments. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. We do appreciate you joining us for Houston Live and Local at 2 p.m. Don't go anywhere because Anthony Antoine is going to be taking over the helm and continue Houston Live and Local.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Thank you for joining me here on Houston Live and Local. I'm Anthony Antoine. The time is 3 o'clock. We got a lot to get to here today, so we're gonna kind of, have some conversation, bring you guys latest headlines. Of course, we got the rain that is happening outside there. Some of you may even be seeing some flooding. So meteorologist Misha Shea will be bringing us up to speed on that. But still on the weather side of things, I know it's raining outside, but it's Houston, Texas. So as we get deeper and deeper into the summer months, you guys can expect the temperatures to increase quite a bit. And because of that, the city of Houston is going to be teaming up with Reliant to provide so many of you at home here some relief. So you're going to hear from the mayor, John Whitmire, about that. But also, now is also the good time, too, to get a weather radio. So we're going to talk about that on the weather side of things, but also the big news that folks are talking about on social media. One of the most trending topics today so far is Jimmy Ward. He is facing a charge out of Montgomery County. So reporter Leslie Delaspore is following that. Now, of course, Jimmy Ward, if you're not familiar with him, he plays for your Houston Texans. So naturally, his name and this incident brings with it a certain level of attention, right? So we'll get to all those stories here in a little bit, though. But let's start with meteorologist Ramisha Shade. As I mentioned a little bit ago, Ramisha, it is pouring outside for so many of us, and flooding is a potential here. Yeah, usually when it comes to weather, you don't want to see red on a map. Yeah. Look behind us. We were in that red for today. We're still in it. That represents an unusually high risk for street flooding. Now, here's a little bit of good news for H-Town. It seems like the heaviest rain kind of went all the way around the Houston area. Kind of made a circle around Houston and beeline. So we didn't get the worst of it. The worst of it was actually down around parts of Wharton County, Matagorda County, Victoria County, Jackson County. That's where we had some of the worst weather. A few brief tornadoes reported early this morning after 3 a.m. in Wharton County, and then also several inches of rain fell down around Palacios and Sargent. In fact, some of those spots picking up close to a foot of rain. The last thing you want to deal with when you're talking about trying to get up, get your week finished, and get to the weekend, and you're dealing with the foot of rain. So not great, but this is what happened this morning. We actually knew that the models were showing multiple bands of super heavy rain dropping in. So that is what happened. The heaviest of that rain moved extremely slow and set up right along the coast from El Campo to Bay City, Lake Jackson. And that is where we had some of the worst rainfall. Also down towards Palacios, Port Lavaca. That's where we had some very, very heavy rain. So we did have a lot of flood warnings, flood advisories. Flash flood warning was actually issued for eastern parts of Harris County, east of Houston this morning. So we've had it all. We're starting to calm things down a little bit, but we still have a flash flood warning down around Port Lavaca for parts of Calhoun County until 3:30. So that goes for another 28 minutes or so. We also still have a flood warning for the Bay City area, parts of Matagorda County and also parts of Jackson County. And that will continue because even though the heavy rain is gone, a lot of those streets are still flooded. Here's the reason we're still dealing with flooding issues down there. Just over the last 12 hours, 7 to 10 inches of rain showing up, stretching from Edna to Palacios to Bay City to the Sweeney area. So that was the bullseye for some of that heavy rain this morning. Also, we will continue with the risk for some light rain showers, maybe some light to moderate rain for the rest of the afternoon, but it's not going to be as widespread as what we dealt with this morning. Now let's get to some actual rain totals. These have been recorded, so we know these are the real deal. We were just looking at some Fox Rat estimated rainfall, but close to 10 inches for you in Sargent, almost 8 in Midway. Around the Baytown area, Goose Creek at I-10, close to 7 inches. San Bernard, close to 6. And League City, almost 4.5 inches. What about the Alvin area? Close to 6 for you. Friendswood, 4 to 4.5 inches. Kingwood, around 4 inches. And Pearland, 3.5 to 4 inches. So here is the current scenario. We still have a flood watch in place for all of Houston up to Huntsville, down to Galveston, back to Bay City and Palacios through 7 p.m. I don't think it's going to be anything like what we experienced this morning for the rest of today. However, any additional rain could cause some flooded streets to pop up out there. So just be careful and keep in mind that we still remain under that elevated flood risk. We've still got an unsettled jet stream, an active pattern out there, and we're still anticipating more of these rounds of rain, Anthony, all the way through Father's Day weekend. So we are going to have to still keep the rain gear close, watch for flooded streets. I think this weekend we will get a few more breaks. It's not going to be quite as widespread, quite as long-lived, quite as heavy, but but we will have about a 50-50 chance for some downpours for your Father's Day plans. If you're trying to make plans with Dad, maybe you already have plans, it looks like we are going to have the threat for some of that rainfall. So just keep that in mind. We do have the potential for more rain. We could also still have a few additional strong storms the next few days. We did have a few brief tornadoes this morning. So before I go, I want to update you on those. They were both in Wharton County between 3 to 4 a.m. The first one, northeast Wharton County and EF1, peak winds of 100 miles per hour, stayed on the ground for about 1.5 miles, 130 yards. And the second was a little weaker in EF0 in Wharton County around Burr, around 320, stayed on the ground for about 2.1 miles with peak winds of 75 miles per hour. Mostly tree damage with that one, and an older shed had its roof blown off. So those were both in pretty rural areas, but they did manage to do a little bit of damage. And just a reminder that, you can get severe storms this time of the year, of course, overnight, early in the morning. So always you need to be prepared, and also keep in mind that flood threat will continue for the next few days as a few more rounds of rain likely will come in. I'm supposed to be catching a flight on Saturday, and I'm looking at that forecast like, please. You might have a few delays, but I don't think it's going to be as bad Saturday as it was today. Of course, this morning was a mess, just as the models were showing. I think the models did a great job with this morning's rain, showing it heaviest in the morning, winding down by early afternoon, and then just some spotty showers. All right, yeah. Thank you so much, Ramisha. We appreciate you. All right, now let's get to that top story trending on Fox26Houston.com. We are talking about Texan safety, Jimmy Ward. He is facing a charge of assault, family violence. Fox 26 reporter Leslie Delaspore brings us up to speed on what's happening there.
We are here at the Montgomery County Jail waiting for Jimmy Ward to walk through these doors. Now, a $30,000 bond has been set for the Houston Texan safety, but here's what we know so far about how we got here. Thursday morning, deputies with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to a report of an assault at Jimmy Ward's home in Magnolia, Texas. Deputies made contact with the victim, who, according to court records, is Christy West. Ward is being charged with assault, family violence, impeding breath and circulation, which is a third-degree felony. Court records say on June 12th, Ward did intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly cause bodily injury to West by applying pressure to said victim's throat or neck, or by blocking said victim's nose or mouth. Deputies say the victim did file an emergency protective order. The Houston Texans did release a statement telling us, "We are aware of the report involving Jimmy Ward. We are gathering information and have no further comment at this time." Again, Ward's bond is set at $30,000, and right now we are waiting for the jail to accept that payment. Reporting in Montgomery County, Leslie Delaspore, Fox 26 News.
All right, Leslie, thanks. The Texans are in mini camp right now, so this is not the time. There's never really a time for a situation like this, but this is not appropriate for him, for sure. Inconvenient. All right, next here, we got the Harris County Jail. They're facing a federal lawsuit from a former inmate here. And Fox 26's Jonathan Mejia spoke with the Texas Civil Rights Project. They're a nonprofit that is representing this former inmate. And here's a look at that story you'll see only here on Fox.
In a 38-page lawsuit, Anna-Asia Smith alleges that 9 detention officers inside the Harris County Jail violently attacked her in an incident that happened in 2023.
It's shocking, but I wish it was more shocking in a sense, because we know that what Miss Smith experienced was horrific and life-altering, but it also wasn't unique. This is a long-standing policy culture of violence that just pervades the Harris County Jail. So she was assigned a job as a trustee cleaning the unit that she lived in and distributing meals. She had to work overnight. Her shift was the full overnight shift, and it was an exhausting shift, and she was not paid for the work.
The lawsuit alleges that Smith had permission to leave after voicing her exhaustion from working the late night shift. However, that wasn't communicated to all of the detention officers.
Ms. Smith had permission to leave her unit. The unit door was opened for her. She would not have been allowed to leave the unit she would not have been able to leave the unit if a staff member had not opened the locked door for her.
The security footage is raising outrage on social media.
It's hard to imagine what the goal would have been to surround her, force her to the floor, punch her repeatedly, drag her across the floor, grind her face into the ground, pull her hair, pull her clothes. there's just no possible legitimate explanation for that kind of behavior.
Fox 26 reached out to the Harris County Attorney's Office as well as the Harris County Sheriff's Office for a response to this lawsuit and allegations. We did not get a response in time for this report. For now, reporting outside the Harris County Jail, Jonathan Mejia, Fox 26 News.
Jonathan, thank you. Now, as Ramisha mentioned when she gave us that first look at the forecast here, it is rainy and flooding for a lot of us here throughout Southeast Texas, but we know it's going to heat up naturally here in the area. And as things continue to get warmer and warmer throughout the summer months here, Mayor John Whitmire is teaming up with Reliant for their Beat the Heat centers that will soon be opening up.
A program that the City of Houston is partnering with our sponsors. Certainly Reliant Energy is helping make this possible today. But it's much, much more than certainly the City of Houston. It's the community. Look at this beautiful event that has brought people from their homes, from their classes, from school, to celebrate a wonderful summer that we have to look forward to. It would not be the wonderful summer that we have to look forward to without the partnership with Reliant Energy. Going to furnish us at least 150 air conditioners for our seniors to take home. They're going to join us at our multi-service centers with resources such as water and other assistance that become necessary as we go through the summer. Certainly, we keep our fingers crossed that we won't have a storm, but storms are part of Houston's experience. So we will prepare for the storms. But events like this don't just happen. I want to thank the Houston Health Department, the Area Agency on Aging, certainly the City Council member, Castillo, that does such an outstanding job. He could be in a lot of areas in his district, large district, very diverse district, but he wanted to join us this morning. So I'm excited to see all of our participants. It demonstrates that Houston cares. We will have cooling centers at all of our multi-service centers this summer, our public libraries, yes, City Hall, wherever you need to get out of the heat and the city can provide a service, we will partner with you.
Oh, that's good stuff there from the mayor and Reliant. Now, with the summer comes summer camps. You know, a lot of kids are going to be going to these summer camps, but for you parents out there, you may be worried, right, about their safety while they're away. Well, joining us now is the CEO of Crime Stoppers to share some important advice.
Camps in general are a wonderful experience and an incredible opportunity for kids to connect with friends and be in nature and do these just wonderful activities. But we do need our kids to be aware of what's right and what's not right. We have to understand the different types of relationships they're going to have, whether it be with their campers, their counselors in training, or the camp staff. And ultimately, they should never really be alone with any of the adults, whether that be counselors in training or camp staff on the premises. Most camps will actually have a rule that the counselors in training or the camp staff should never just be one-on-one with students. They don't take walks alone. They're not alone in confined spaces with those children. Campers should also understand what the protocol is when they want to report something that makes them uncomfortable. They shouldn't be tied down to writing a letter to mom and dad that takes, 5 to 6 days to get there and get back. They should know who at the camp they can report to. They should know that they are able to call their parents at any time, and they should feel that they have that right and that they should feel empowered to actually do that. One of the biggest issues we've found is that kids didn't know how to handle issues that arose in camp, and there were many. They didn't know how to report, or they reported to maybe the owner of the camp who didn't do what they really should do with that type of information. So we are really encouraging kids to be your advocate, speak up for yourself, sound the alarm if something's making you uncomfortable, whether it's in your cabin or outside of your cabin, and let your parents know, whether by demanding a phone call, sending a letter home, but certainly speak up for yourself.
And still to come here on Houston Live and Local, we know things can change quickly with the forecast, especially when it comes to rain and potential flooding. So coming up next, we're going to talk about the importance of having a weather radio in case of severe weather. Welcome back to Houston Live and Local. I'm Anthony Antoine. I know you probably heard us talk about this a lot here. We are in hurricane season, and it's a good idea to always have your hurricane preparedness kit. And something you might want to keep in that kit as well is a weather radio. And meteorologists Mike Iskovitz and John Dawson talk with Midland Radio about the importance of staying up to date with the weather.
Let me just give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself so I don't miss anything as far as what you or Midland Radio does.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. I work with Midland. We're based out of Kansas City, Missouri, but we make two-way radios for those enjoying the outdoors or who don't have cell phone coverage. But then what we're here to talk about today is our weather and emergency radios, which are great for preparation, before, during, and after the storm, and also, during some other emergency management type of events. But yeah, so our weather and emergency alert radios are great for, before you get those alerts, during those, storms, whether it's a tornado, a hurricane, a wildfire, winter weather, and then, staying alert after the storm as well.
So Kaylee, I have a segment called the Hurricane Gear Test in which I'm able to kind of review and test products, and I've done Midland Radio over the years. And I just want to clarify one thing about what we're talking about. I think a lot of people, when they think old school weather radios or emergency radios, they think about the little desktop one that sits on your dresser and it's plugged into the wall, and when the alert comes in, it automatically comes on and sometimes makes an awful noise and that kind of stuff to kind of get your attention. And yes, you make those. Midland Radio does still make those, but that's not really what I've focused on, or I think is a little bit more applicable as far as especially hurricane preparedness goes, because I kind of think we're going to lose power anyway with hurricanes. So what I've got are a couple of your portable ones here that we are able to talk about, and I reviewed one of these. I reviewed this one. This is the ER50. I've reviewed that one in the past. And then the one I was sent for this year is the 210, the ER210. It looks to be a little bit bigger. And I haven't had a chance to review it yet. So still kind of looking at that. So just give us a sort of a quick overview a little bit. How do these portable units, what are they really able to do for us as far as I guess we don't even have to start with hurricanes. We could just talk about severe weather or hurricanes in here. How these portable radios help us out?
Well, those desktop radios that you do talk about, we kind of talk about those, being the first line of alerting, right? So you should still have those desktop radios in your home. They're great, first way to receive that alert, especially if you do still have power. That way you're not, draining the power on your portable alert radios. So those are great to have in your house, whether it's in your kitchen or in your bedroom on your dresser or your nightstand, wherever you choose to put that. But then those portable radios are great for hurricanes specifically. They're great for, all kinds of different storms. But the reason we really like them for hurricanes is because they're on the go. So if you do have to evacuate or you do lose power in your home, you can continue to use those throughout the storm, after the storm, to get those critical alerts straight at your fingertips, no matter, what your power situation is. The ER50 and the ER10 or 210 both have hand cranks and they have rechargeable batteries. The ER210 also has that solar panel for extra charging so that you can continue to have those alerts through, out those power outages or as you move around from area to area if you're evacuating in a hurricane.
Hey, Kaylee, Mike here. I know that a lot of people, just about everybody, relies on their phones now, whether you got iPhone, Android, whatever it is, and they think, well, I'm just going to get all the information from that. But what are some of the, and I know there will be, what are some of the advantages of having something that is not linked to cell phone towers and the kind of technology that comes with, our phones that we use every day?
At Midland, we really encourage people to have multiple redundant ways of receiving alerts. It's still great to get those cell phone alerts, but sometimes, just last week in Kansas City, we had a tornado outbreak kind of out here, and I wasn't getting the alerts to my phone. So sometimes, whether it's just, your phone glitching or, sometimes during a storm, the towers can become damaged by wind or whatever that is, or they can become overwhelmed, right? If too many people are using the tower in your area, you just might not get those alerts. But with your emergency and your weather radios, those alerts come directly from the National Weather Service. So as soon as they issue any kind of a watch or a warning out to your area, you're going to get that alert. So it's really instant and it's really accurate information because it's coming straight from the National Weather Service, right? So it's just really great to have. I don't think if, you're in a dangerous situation like a tornado or a hurricane or a wildfire, I don't really think you're going to be upset if you're getting too many alerts, right? Because they really are bringing that life-saving information that you really need to have to get you and your family, your friends to safety. So it's just better to get multiple alerts, especially in case there's a situation where, your phone doesn't go off.
I'm glad you pointed out a couple of the features. And I think originally when we think about these are the crank powered radio. But as you mentioned, we've gone beyond that now. We can crank to power that battery. You've also got the solar panels on top. And then also you can pre-charge this ahead of time with a USB cable. And if you can pre-charge it, you can also use it to charge your own cell phone. But what I want to talk a little bit about, or have you discuss a little bit for us, Kaylee, is the whole radio aspect of it. Because while I think both of these have an AM and FM tuner on them where you can just get any AM FM channels, they both have the weather radio, which is what you're talking about with NOAA. And I don't want to say that it involves a lot of setup, but there is, just because there's a lack of familiarity with it, people just aren't using the NOAA weather radio. Just talk us a little bit about the difference, or what do people need to know in a brief sort of refresher about what the NOAA weather radio is versus just maybe AM and FM radios?
Right, so you do have that AM/FM feature, right, where local radio stations can keep you up to date on what's happening. But the real most important life-saving information is going to come straight from the National Weather Service. They're the ones that are issuing the tornado watches, warnings, the hurricane evacuation notices. So that information comes directly from them. So the NOAA Weather Radio is there 24 hours a day, 24/7 broadcast, where it has all the information about the weather in your area. The great thing about those portable alert radios is that you can kind of move them around, right? The desktop radios that we talked about a little bit earlier, you program to your specific county so that you're only getting information from your area. The great thing about those portable radios is you can go into the weather mode, the WX button, which is the weather mode, and you can kind of move around, find the signal for, the transmitter that's closest to your area. And that way you're getting continuous information and alerts straight from the National Weather Service in your area. And again, that is just going to be the most accurate information. They're going to tell you about what the weather looks like in your area, what that could mean, right? So if there's, for instance, a severe thunderstorm alert, maybe you're getting hail, maybe you're getting strong winds. So they're going to provide that information, but then also tell you, how to act and what steps you should be taking to get to safety.
These things also are no longer just that standalone radio. I mean, JD was just, while you were speaking there, showing me how bright the flashlight is on this thing. It really is. So, it's a multi-function kind of thing, and it's just one of those things that is, throwback maybe? I mean, is that the right terminology?
I call this an old school emergency preparedness item. Like if you ask people like, what's a classic? What's a classic emergency preparedness item? They're going to say crank powered radio, flashlight radio, for sure. So how I guess finally the question is just kind of say what are any other sort of advice that you kind of give? Because it's a year-round preparations now. It's not just, we've had winter events and wildfires and all that stuff. So what's just sort of some general advice that Midland has for just emergency preparedness?
Well, preparedness is so important, right? You don't want to be acting too late or, when the storm hits, right? You want to be ready at all times. So we really encourage people to make a plan first. Where are you going if you have to evacuate? Or if you need to stay there, where's your tornado safe space, All
right. Thank you guys so much for joining us here on Houston Live and Local. Stay with us. Caroline and Rashi is coming up next.